Hi there, my name is Renee Sofrato of Renovations, and I first of all really want to welcome you to this e-learning and thank you for the time that you're investing in getting your team hopefully around a boardroom table and watching this skill. This is an introduction to the communication loop. It's a fantastic model to learn how to communicate more effectively and to make sure that you as a team are connecting on every little point that you need to throughout your day. We work with hundreds and hundreds of leaders and executives throughout the year, and one of the things that we notice is if they take this skill and apply it, their results will soar and they're more effective and their teams are more engaged. So those are really, really important things to business. I hope by now that whoever is leading this meeting has given you the ebook for communication. If not, they'll give it to you at the end and you can read that as additional knowledge. But hopefully you'll watch the screencast together and at the end you'll be able to have a really, really rich dialogue about how you can apply the learnings of this skill within your team. So enough of that. Let's get on to the model. And for those of you who have already learned a model, ask yourself, the model that you did learn, do you use it? And if not, here's a new model, and it's probably going to be the same type of information, but this time you can rejuice yourself, regenerate, and start to really apply it. For those of you who have never learned a model for communication, I'm sure you'll get a lot of value out of this first experience. Okay, talk soon.
You may ask yourself, why is this important? Because ineffective listening costs businesses time and money. Or what is this? Well, it's a model that guarantees effective listening. The kicker is it needs to be used in order to be effective. How do I do this? Quite simply, you need to learn it and practice it to get the results you need. Imagine if you felt heard by others, you were more confident that you had an agreement on how to move forward after conversations with clear agreed action plans, and you felt as if communication was somewhat effortless. Here are some of the results that you may experience after learning this skill. You might start to slow down your interactions in order to get clarity, decrease misinterpretations, and costly error. You will learn the 4 different types of assumptions. Start to understand the impact and cost of ineffective listening on business. Use a 5-step model to increase your listening effectiveness, and identify and practice the critical steps of communication. Understand the importance of reflective, active listening for clear communication and improved alignment. In part 2 of the communication loop, we'll start to talk about precision listening, very different than active and reflective listening. Part 3, navigating conflict. Part 4, developing emotional intelligence. And Part 5, men and women differing communication styles. I'm going to tell a story of a scenario in a high-growth communication company to build the communication loop. The vice president, leader Lola, has been with the company for over 16 years. Lola started taking calls in the call center, moved up to supervisor, then manager, and now she is Vice President of Customer Service. Recently, the company has been in a high growth phase. Lola has promoted a number of her call center representatives. I want to introduce you to Supervisor Steve. Steve is young, intelligent, and highly motivated. He has done really well in his last few weeks as a supervisor, yet Lola has one unresolved concern. I will build the model by using this communication between Lola and Steve. Every communication starts with a sender of data and a receiver of data. When Lola sends the data, she wants to make sure she makes it as succinct and clear as possible. I don't know about you, but generally I forget to prepare for some of my tougher communication situations, and then I start to ramble in the midst of my own discomfort as opposed to actually delivering it succinctly. So it's really important to prepare and to deliver the data succinctly.
Steve, it's been 3 weeks since I promoted you to supervisor of your department. You're falling behind on your task reports, and I'm really getting concerned. When I hired you, I thought you had good relationships with your peers and could get this team inspired and motivated quickly. We do not have much time left this quarter to reach our objectives.
When Steve receives the data, he is going to interpret it by making an assumption. Assumptions generally lead to action. If he makes the assumption that everything is going well, he may react.
What more do you want from me?
If he makes the assumption that Lola is not a competent leader, he may attack.
Hey, you're never around. Most of my staff is sick, and I am really overwhelmed.
If he makes the assumption that he is doing everything perfectly, he may defend.
Look, I'm new at this. I've only been doing it for 3 weeks. I'm trying my best, and I'm just overwhelmed.
If he makes the assumption that she has his best interest in mind, and she wants him to be a successful leader, he may understand.
Oh, thanks for the feedback. I do think I need some help, so let's get together and talk about this so I can actually get better as quickly as possible. Thanks.
Let's leave Lola and Steve and look at the communication loop. Sender A needs to send some data, an intended message. The sender wants to do this as clearly and succinctly as possible. When receiver B receives the data, he or she makes an interpretation. Really important to note that assumptions lead us to our actions. We might react, attack, defend, or understand.
So this is a critical place in the communication model. For those of you who have never learned a model for communication, then you've never really learned how to take communication further than this place. This is generally where conflicts start to arise, misinterpretation starts to happen, costly errors occur. This is sort of the stone wall of communication. It's learning how to get to the next step in communication that will make your communication more effective. So listen on.
Here are some active listening facts. Did you know that 50% of our work time is spent listening? Immediately following a 10-minute presentation, we retain only about half of what we've heard. And after 48 hours, we only remember 25% of what we heard. 60% of management problems are related to poor listening. We misinterpret 70 to 90% of what we hear. Estimates are that poor listening in business costs companies $1.5 billion per year. Effective listening certainly saves time and money. Each and every one of us can improve communication immediately if we start to practice active listening. Active or reflective listening, which is very different than precision listening, means that we simply repeat back the gist of what we've heard. By repeating back the gist, we can reduce the complexity or noise of ineffective communication. So back to the story of Lola and Steve. Remember, we left off with Lola making the following statement.
Steve, it's been 3 weeks since I promoted you to supervisor of your department. You're falling behind on your task reports, and I'm really getting concerned. When I hired you, I thought you had good relationships with your peers and could get this team inspired and motivated quickly. We do not have much time left this quarter to reach our objectives.
Let me see. I think you're saying you're concerned with my results and surprised by how I am leading my department. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. But I also need you to understand that your results are different from what I expected.
So let's look at what happened here. This is step 4 of the communication loop. Lola acknowledged what Steve said with a simple agreement,
Yes, that's right.
as well as added a further point of clarity.
That your results are different from what I expected.
It's really important to remember step 4. As the sender, we have to acknowledge when the receiver is aligned with our message by stating yes, or not aligned by simply stating no. This becomes our opportunity to hear what we said from the receiver's viewpoint and to add any needed clarification points. That's why we call it reflective or active listening. The sender and the receiver are in a dialogue to get the clarity they need to move forward to an agreement. Lola continues by clarifying with Steve why it is important for him to understand that he is falling behind.
I need to see evidence that you can get your work done, and then we can work on developing your team.
Okay, I think you're saying that I need to increase your confidence in my abilities to get the results and motivate my team. And I also understand you're concerned about my performance. Okay, then I need your help because I'm feeling awkward about leading my peers.
So back to the communication loop. We now understand that every communication starts with a sender of data. They send an intended message to the receiver as clearly and succinctly as possible. The receiver, when receiving the information, makes an interpretation. Remember, assumptions lead to action. And some common assumptions frequently used are react, attack, defend, and understand. It's really important when practicing effective communication that the receiver of the data repeats back the gist of what the sender said. This is the area where we start to reduce the noise and increase high-fidelity communication. This is truly the key to effective communication. After repeating the gist, sender A then needs to acknowledge by accepting and clarifying. Accepting with either a "yes, this is what I said," or "no, that's actually not what I said," and then clarifying any missing data. The last step of every communication is agreeing together on a plan of action.
I'll have my report on your desk in the morning. You can be sure of that.
Great, Steve. Let's review it together and discuss ways in which we can work with your peers more effectively.
So now you know what the communication loop is all about, and you understand the importance of active and reflective listening. I encourage you to practice the skill. With practice, you will get progress. If you have any questions about anything you learned, or you might have a particular case study that you want to communicate to us, this is the form that will help you communicate directly to us. All you need to do is put your name and your email in the space provided, and then either ask a question or give us a case study. Remember to hit the Ask button, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. A lot of people communicate to us on these pages, and we find it really useful because if you have a case study, what it allows us to do is create blogs, blogging tips on this content, or even further e-learnings. So please, get your fingers typing. It'll help us all out. Talk soon.